Hi guys, happy Sunday with Satan. Alright, what am I doing today? What am I proving? Oh, Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page in relation with Aleister Crowley. So, found a little bit of information on them. I was going to try to contact Saturn. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to. So, sorry. So I will be contacting Saturn though, definitely, just to see what it's all about. So, everybody thought Jimmy Page and Aleister Crowley were Satanists. They worship Satan, the beast. They were actually trying to get rid of the beast. So that's why Aleister Crowley obviously took on that own name for himself, the beast, from Revelations, because it was his mother telling him, that he literally was the beast. So parental conditioning made him think that he was the Antichrist, the beast, and it just turned him into a bitter person towards his parents. So he did a lot of what? He just searched, and so I'm not 100% sure about his Ouija board use. The whole ZoSo thing between them. So I don't think Aleister Crowley had anything to do with ZoSo whatsoever. I think Jimmy Page, it all came from Jimmy Page. The Saturn with his sun sign of Capricorn. Saturn plus the sun sign for Capricorn is ZoSo. So, and that relates to Saturn planet, the god of Saturn too. So we have Zeus, the Titan. We have Titan. We have Kronos. We have all these different deities that were deemed demons by modern occult people, and I think it's ridiculous. So this is just a little bit about Jimmy Page and his involvement with the occult. So he ran a bookstore in London. He was born in London, obviously. So lots of rumors and misinformation surrounded Page's interest in the occult. There were rumors he was a Satanist, he was into black magic, or sold his soul in exchange for fame. Regardless of whether you not believe all these rumors, that's not how Page describes it. So are we going to believe the rumors, or are we going to believe what he said? So the Led Zeppelin guitarist was a follower of Aleister Crowley, an occultist, mystic, and magician. Among other things, Page said he read one of Crowley's books when he was just 11 years old, and started really getting into magic when he was just 15. He eventually bought Crowley's old house and opened up an occult bookstore in London, because, as he put it, I was so pissed off not being able to get the books I wanted, unquote. Okay, there we go. So, Page made clear that he did not worship the devil or practice black magic. Instead, he was creating a fusion between magic and music. There we go. Magic and music, a fusion. Alright, so this is what he says. The four musical elements of Led Zeppelin, making a fifth, is a magic into itself. That's the alchemical process. It's all alchemical. So, just proving more that ZoSo is fake, and it is so. Page never tried to tone down his interest in the occult. He wore embroidered symbols on his clothes and placed them on album covers, which he called talismanic magic. Talismans, seals, sigils. That makes total sense. I mean, if that doesn't, his own words, if that doesn't clear the ZoSo thing up, then I don't know what will. So, and he has the words "do without wilt" written on the original vinyl, pressing. Yeah, the vinyl pressing on the album Led Zeppelin 4, which was a reference to Crowley's main philosophical tenet, but he rarely went into much depth about it. In interviews, he said, "I don't really want to go on about my personal beliefs or my involvement in magic. I am not interested in turning anybody onto anybody. onto anybody that I'm turned on to. If people want to find things, they find them themselves. So he was not. So, okay, well, thanks to Page, I'm sure many young rockers found their way to Aleister Crowley themselves. I think it's really sad. I think it's ridiculous. No, I found Crowley before I did Jimmy Page. So, no, I think that's stupid. Associating the two, rockers and Satanism, and, no, stupid, in the occult. So, making peaceful magic. So, this person goes on to say, I couldn't find much evidence that Page is very concerned with partisan politics. I would assume that he's generally left of the center, considering his role in the 1970s rock and roll counterculture. So, in non-partisan political news, after agreeing to perform the 2010 Show of Peace concert in China, Page was honored with the first ever United Nations Pathways to Peace Global Peace Award. So, he obviously knew how to use ZoSo, his symbol that he created, his magical symbol, in order to achieve what he was wanting, and he did. So, that appears to be about it. If you know anything else about Page's politics or have any thoughts on his less than mainstream spiritual beliefs, leave us a comment. And this was from hollowverse.com. So, it doesn't add up. You can't connect the lines with anything with Zozo. So, let's see. Anything else about that? Okay. Okay, supposedly it's the curse of Led Zeppelin. So now we're getting into more thought forms and stupid stuff. So Aleister Crowley, Jimmy Page, and the curse of Led Zeppelin when myth, magic, and weird facts collide. So here's something to something fun to listen to. So the curse of Led Zeppelin, people started to whisper about this in the late 70s. Nobody had any particular facts, but when Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham died in September of 1980, things started to pick up. So is there anything to this so-called Led Zeppelin curse? Nonsense, right? Let's see. I would honestly say it's stupid. So, most of the curse talk is centered around the little understood late 19th century magician Aleister Crowley. To say the word magician in the 21st century conjures up images of David Blaine or David Copperfield, working illusions. In the late 1800s, there existed a different kind of magician. These guys were serious, unlocking dimensions, communicating with extraterrestrial intelligences, communicating with the dead through teleportation, thought teleportation, spirit photography, spooky stuff, and grounded in science. The spiritualist movement was huge at this time, with many Christians inhabited the terrain, making the public think this was all some tomfoolery. Others knew better. Read up on the influence of Helena Blavatsky in the spiritual movement and theosophy. So, much of this work was centered in England around the Golden Dawn Society. So there we go. That explains a lot. That would explain the higher guardian angel, the 11-day, 22-day meditation ritual for the guardian, the holiest guardian angel. Alright, so founded by Samuel Little McGregor Mathers in the late 1880s. It was a secret society based loosely on Freemasonry, and like the Masons, had access to ancient secret Egyptian knowledge, supposedly. Their intent wasn't evil or underhanded. They knew that humans had unlimited potential and vast untapped reservoirs waiting to be discovered. So in short, they wanted mankind to rise up to a higher level of consciousness and awareness, not bad aspirations. So that is where, when you invoke Saturn, and it gives you that task, it's a task giver, It is making you face your fears and your own inner demons to better yourself, to connect with your higher consciousness, your higher self, and to better yourself. So it's really about inner work, shadow work, really getting into that, and really, communicating with these different beings from different dimensions. So, okay, not bad aspirations. They attracted high society intellectuals. William Butler Yeats was an early member, but the infighting for control of the group, and a new member, Aleister Crowley, caused rifts that tore the group apart. By the early 1900s, the group had splintered into several sects. Crowley was off on his own. So the aspect of Crowley are the earliest to locate in books and internet articles. Copious use of drugs and sex, lots of sex, and sex, violent drugs, lots of drugs. So you get the idea, his life is far too much to cover here. But suffice it to say, Crowley continued on an esoteric magical path that continued to confound and mystify and push the boundaries of understanding of the unseen further, that anyone in the late 200 years, he is indirectly responsible for Scientology, but was long dead when L. Ron Hubbard foisted that scam onto the public. So yeah, Aleister Crowley was responsible for Scientology, which is fake, and it's ridiculous too. It's very scary. I can't stand Scientology. It's the scariest shit ever. So he became known as the master magician of the early 20th century, part devil incarnate or part receptacle or interdimensional knowledge. It's easy to find both options. So, enter rock and roll. From Beatle-esque Good Times to psychedelic movement was a scant 3 years. Fans and bands were looking for something further. LSD and a rainbow of other drugs gave them insight that they were actually was something further out there. Bands started to get weird and fans got weirder as the 60s shifted into the 1970s. It was around that time that Jimmy Page began to have a large fixation with Aleister Crowley. His bookstore he financed the Equinox was named after a Crowley journal, and it stocked some seriously rare and pricey occult books. The Red Dragon. So this is the time when supposedly Page asked the band to perform a magical ritual with him, a ritual that would bring the band power, unimaginable, and something akin to everlasting life. And for anyone who has ever heard or talked to people in the know, this kind of magic is nothing to fool with. It supposedly involves forces with powers beyond any human imagination, and is not to be trifled with by anyone not steeped in mountains of experience, certainly not for novice magi or stone guitarists. Maybe he did do something wrong. I don't know. So, the Oracle at Delphi, giving mixed prophecies, is a good ancient example. Blame Herbus, blame drugs, but Page allegedly got the band -1 to join in his solemn and ancient ceremony. John Paul was either skeptical enough or learned enough to stay far away. Alright, Led Zeppelin 3, the third album. You can see a lot of occult imagery. So the first evidence that this pact showed up on Led Zeppelin 3. It was years before I discovered its existence. Between the end of the last song and the paper label is the outro groove. This is where matrix numbers used by pressing plant are usually located, written into the vinyl, carved with a stylus onto the testing pressing acetate, more correctly, was so mote it be on one side and do it thou wilt on the other. So there are basic stock phrases that are in the core of Crowley's belief system and are familiar to most who are aware of him. The magical significance of Crowley power phrase spinning simultaneously on 1,000 of turntables across the world would not have escaped Page's notice. So colleagues of this era say he most certainly was a member of the OTO, Order of the Golden Dawn, at this point. So, now it's getting into the ZoSo. So it was on Led Zeppelin's fourth album that the symbolism became more overt. No band name or title graced the cover or spine. Inside, a haunting painting of the Hermit, a powerful tarot card, so which seeking knowledge, a seeker of knowledge. which is what the tarot, the hermit represents, a powerful tarot card symbol, was the soul image on the inner sleeve, more esoterica. 4 symbols boldly across the sleeve from left to right. These represent Page, Jones, Bowman, and Plant. Page has said in interviews, that most of these were taken Rudolf Koch's 1955 Book of Signs. Okay, so here we go, Book of Signs. Very easy to look up. A collection of ancient and magical symbols from across the world. Plant's is easier to decipher, the feather of truth from the Egyptian goddess Mot. Plant brought the truth and spoke it. Bowman's is the least esoteric, depending on who you believe it, is either a symbol for a drum kit, the family unit, or the Baltaline beer family unit. Logo. So wise Pundits referred to the later as most likely John Paul Jones logo. Likely chosen by Page, is an ancient Celtic symbol with differing meanings, and was so opted by the early Christian church as the meaning for the Trinity. Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, Mother, Median, and Crone. The famed ZoSo symbol is harder to pin down. Page famously has said he will never tell anyone what it means, but that it has obvious magical and occult significance. Robert Plant once said that it is a quietly guarded moment. Page revealed the full meaning of all 4 signs, including a lengthy discussion of what ZoSo meant. Unfortunately for the rock world, Plant said, "I was a bit wasted at the time, and by the next morning I had forgotten. I asked him the next day to tell me again, and he said he couldn't or wouldn't." So, it's just so much controversy. It's too much. There's drugs, there's alcohol, there's sex, there's all of that going around with it. So, and that's what's happening right now with Zozo, the actual Zozo phenomenon. It sounded like there was a different vocal cord coming out. That's strange. So, I think that is seriously, it's everything that they were doing, all these, medical rites and drugs and stuff, especially when you're using, if the Ouija, or, if you're into ceremonial magic, all of this, angelic magic, planetary magic, astrology, you're going to, and if you're on drugs, it's going to somehow go bad. So, I firsthand have experienced that. So, even Sandy Denny of Fairport Convention, the ethereal voice on Battle of Evermore, got her own symbol. Cue foreshadowing music here. In her credits, her symbol is related to both Godhead and the power of the female. Alright, so we have pictures of Page at Crowley's mansion. So, that is a lot of esoteric ballyhoo, but where is the curse? According to Pamela de Desbarras, a groupie extraordinaire and main squeeze of Page during this era, Jimmy got very deep into the Crowley myth, taking her to scour San Francisco and Los Angeles for Crowleyania. She managed to come up with some impressive artifacts, manuscripts, and even the magical robes Crowley wore. Then Page dropped a large chunk of change to acquire Crowley's mansion. Located in Loch Ness. Page said that the house had a history of suicide, which was true. So every house, every house has histories of suicides and deaths, and that's just natural. It's the way things work. This was now a serious obsession, and he had managed to keep it fairly quiet above boards. So, visitors to Blockstein said that at dusk the outdoor patio was awash with shadows, phantoms, and ghostly shapes. A residue of decades of conjuring and whatnot. So, whatever you believe, maids and servants were a quick turnover in employment. So, let's all agree the place was haunted to the point of being uninhabitable and beyond creepy. Okay, so Page moved in, and obviously things went crazy. But, that comes with the drug usage in conjunction with your magic. So, there we go. That's a lot to do with it. Sounds like somebody is trying to be a Jimmy Page. That's what I'm feeling. The Zozo thing, it feels like somebody is trying to be Jimmy Page again. Or Crowley. So, enter Kenneth Anger, Crowley disciple and filmmaker. He was a noted underground filmmaker, drug taker, and subversive. When Abby Hoffman and Jerry Rubin hatched a plan to exorcise and levitate the Pentagon in 1967, people took it as a yippee lark. A stage show, however, Anger was... I don't know that word. Ensconced under a truck, busily drawing magic circles, burning incense, and chanting spells in Enochian. So you guys can actually find Zozo also, ZoSo, in Enochian magic. So, truly and seriously trying to do a real ritual exorcism. Wow. When plans for his film, Lucifer Rising, began to go astray. Is that a real film? The lead actor was Bobby Beausoleil, later convicted of murder as a Manson family member, had to quit. Antonio LaVey of the Church of Satan had a cameo. He had an off-and-on relation with Rolling Stone for soundtrack work, oddly right before the Altamont tragedy. So rough cuts and cameras were stolen. In stepped Jimmy Page to do the soundtrack. This was the start of a love-hate relationship between Anger and Page. The music Page produced was genuinely creepy. Some showed up on it throughout the door as an intro into the evening. Anger moved into Blockschein, and they shared their love of Crowley memorabilia. Anger was eventually asked to leave Page's house when they had been living as the relationship. So Degenerated and Page pulled out in 1975. Anger did a major flame job in the media publicly, but privately said that he cursed Page and Zepp with one monster of a spell. Then hugest psychic whammy, hugest psychic whammy he could conjure, replete with the worst Crowleyisms he could muster. This is where the shit really started to go south. First, Robert Plant was in a horrific car crash, plunging off a cliff in Greece in 1975, nearly killing himself. These are all self-fulfilling prophecies. All of them. So, his wife and child, Karak, this forced the cancellation of the remainder of the physical graffiti tour, and postponed the recording of Presence, which Plant was forced to record in a wheelchair. The makeup tour was then plagued by a plethora of highly negative events. A sudden case of laryngitis for Plant after the band had shipped all of their equipment and instruments to the States meant zero rehearsing was possible. Ticketless fans in Cincinnati rooted in storm gates, oddly the site of the infamous trampling incident at the Who 2 years later that killed 11. In San Francisco, manager Peter Grant and John Bowman roughed up Billy Graham and nearly beat a Bill Graham employee to death in Bowman, and Grant narrowly escaped serious charges in incarceration. Then Karak got sick. The best physicians money and private jets could buy all had the same answers. We have no idea what is wrong. He passed away in 1977, right after the Graham incident, and the band arrived in New Orleans. They got the news the tour was immediately canceled. Plant quit the band and music in response to Page and Jones not showing up to his son's funeral. Zeppelin truly seemed cursed. Things continued to implode. Page was merely comatose on a daily basis from a crippling heroin addiction. So we can see where it all came from. Drugs. That's where it came from. Sadly. So. Okay, and then Bauman's alcoholism raged out of control, and he became increasingly violent and unpredictable. In 1978, Sandy Denny, the goddess of battle, of Evermore plunged drunkenly down a flight of stairs and broke her neck and died. Finally, in September of 1980, John Bauman was sent home, blisteringly drunk from a band rehearsal. Handlers tucked him in bed. He only drank 40 or so shots. He would be fine. Incorrect. He died in his sleep, and so did Led Zeppelin. The Kurds had to cut a swath through the band in under 5 years. Only John Paul Jones, the only one not to sign the supposed pact, remained unscathed. They're all self-fulfilling prophecies. All of them. So when all is said and done, it is pretty easy to chalk all above up to the circumstance and chance, eerie circumstances, but nevertheless a round of odd coincidences. Page had several times in interviews that he was using a system that worked. When asked about Crowley, clearly occult practices were genuinely involved on some level, and some creepy, frightening personages dance in the background of the story. Personally, I am not sure. Things started to backfire just as the band became the worldwide legends they had tried to magically invoke. Perhaps Page had violated the fourth pillar of the OTO, commandments to be silent, by dropping some larger hints as to what he was born into in his 1970s interviews, which drew some magical actions. But this is the thing that gets me. When so-called black magicians mess with this stuff, they usually do a protective spell on themselves for extra safety. Because blackish magic is notorious for either backfiring or not working in the way it is supposed to. It is very true. Very true. So, collateral damage around events associated with this behavior is well known, but Page's extra level of spell could be simple, like, make sure nothing happens to me. And looking back on Page's career since 1980, his level of heroin addiction, lack of production musically, ignoring the firm, failed Zeppelin reunions, and general dearth of accomplishments after nearly 2 decades of brilliance. It gives me a pause. Literally nothing has happened to him, good or bad, just as it is phrased. And a fairly decent body count to go along with it is just enough to make you really wonder. So, that is the connection with Aleister Crowley and Jimmy Page. So it would seem to me that he created something, a sigil. I don't know. I have not watched interviews with Page on any of it, so I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. So I would have to go and do more research on, Jimmy Page, and a lot of everything. Everything is coming from ancient Egypt, Persian. It's all coming from everywhere. So the Golden Dawn, just all kinds of. It's like a giant eclectic pot of stuff that Crowley and Page did. So I don't know. But both of them actually did try to defeat the beast, the darkness, and you have to face the darkness first before you can come into the light and find the light. So I guess Jimmy is the only person that knows what his symbol means. But then again, it also said that it's just a symbol for Saturn. So as far as ZoSo, fake. Mama, fake. Zaza, fake. ZoSo, Saturn. That's my conclusion. It's Saturn. It's the sigil for Saturn. So I mean, if I were Kronos, if I were Saturnus, and I was being called on, Saturn has many phases. Some negative phases, some better phases. So it's good to figure out which phase Saturn's in before you go work with him. That's why I did not work with Saturn today. I don't want to mess anything up. So yeah, I mean, I would be pissed off too. And I would be coming through and I would be giving awful messages. But no. Yes, the Zozo is all made up. All made up. By one person. One person. And that one person spreads that one seed. And our subconscious minds soak that up. And then we feed it. So I'm not feeding it. I am exposing it to the light. And it's going away. It's just going away completely. For me, I feel so liberated. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's like you know that feeling when you give a good reading or something, and you just get that. That's how I feel. That's how I feel, so. Nobody has to fear Zozo anymore. Seriously, nobody has to fear Zozo. Unless you're buying into the Zozo phenomenon. Which you guys do. A lot of people do. But yeah, I was looking at, in conjunction with Mercury and, just all the planets and how Mercury is also a messenger. So much. So just the symbols, just Google Saturn. Go through all of it. Try to find a few more little things. So yeah, they were all sigils and seals. Nothing bad. Okay, I think I'm freezing up again. My laptop. So yes. That does make sense though, that, Zozo, the actual Zozo demon, can take on a different form, because it's somebody else's thought form that is projected onto us. So it has become an archetype. Sadly. So just embrace it. Find the light within it, like I have. And don't mess with it again. Except for Saturn. Saturn is very good. Very, very good. Okay. Okay. Alright. So I'm finding a bunch of stuff here on the whole Zozo thing. You guys, if you Google, seriously. There's so much. There is so much. I mean, just everything. It's ZoSo, not Zozo, so I would not be looking up. But yeah, and then the hermit, the planets, it's all astrological. It's all astrological. Alright, so we have the Led Zeppelin match. Draw a line to the match symbol. Oh, that's Led Zeppelin, the meanings. Okay, so what else do we have here? Saturnus. ZoSo. That's all that is. That's all that is. Yep. That's all it is. And then I don't know if I can read that. I cannot read that. It's not in English. Damn it. So yeah, a lot of people have this. Here it is, the dragon, the red dragon, Dragon Rouge, Dragon Rouge. So yeah, I just... I'm finding, Ganesh. I'm finding symbolism within Ganesh. Yeah, definitely. Runes of some type. Runes, sigils, ancient alphabets, alchemical symbols. You can actually see Saturn You can see how the Z would be in there. Ancient alphabets. It's seriously crazy. There's so much that you guys can find on all of this. So yeah, I think it's just all fake. And then the crows associated with Zozo. Yeah, Zozo. No, that's ridiculous. That is so stupid. Crows are good. They're very good. So yeah, it's just a symbol. A symbol that he made up. And somebody has completely... there we go, we could do the witch's alphabet. So we have the witch's alphabet. The alphabet of the Magi. Do we have a Z in there? No, we don't have a Z in the alphabet of the Magi. Okay, the witch's alphabet is where it actually looks like it would be Zozo, spelled out. So, or ZoSo. I'm not finding much. I'm not finding much on him. Let's try all. I'm bound to determine. Shit. Alright, here we go. I just ashed all over myself. Okay. Okay, so there's Zozo. ZoSo. Let me see if I can find... Let's see, this is all in French. It's French. I cannot read French. Okay, so the original symbol was used by Cardano in 1557, which he used as the magical sigil for Saturn, the planet that rules Capricorn. So when you put together Saturn and Capricorn within some type of magical text or symbolism, boom, ZoSo. ZoSo. So, the planet that rules Capricorn, Jimmy Page's sign. Jimmy took this symbol and changed parts of it. The true meaning is one only known to him. In short, it's an adapted occult symbol. So it's actually been adapted into the occult. So it's not true. It's not a true being. Except Saturn is a true being. But Zozo is not. So we can find more, maybe. Yeah, I guess let's see, a little more on it. Okay. Alright, so here's more on the ZoSo symbol. So, the ZoSo symbol associated with Led Zeppelin's fourth album appears to be a sigil for the planet Saturn, associated with the 12th century alchemist Artifius. The mathematician and occultist Cardano included a copy of the sigil in the chapter Ars Magica Artifici et Mahini, English translation, the magical art of artifice and Mephius, of his 1557 book, De Rerum Vereti, which was placed on the Vatican's Index of Forbidden Books. Other sources on the internet identify the source of ZoSo as Cardano's Ars Magica Artifici, but that's actually a case of mistaking a misprint of one of Cardano's chapter title as the title of one of Cardano's books. So, yeah, the sigil is for Saturn. That's all it is. That's all it is. The symbol can be also found in reprints of circa 1520 grimoire, best known in English as the Red Dragon and the Black Hen, where the symbol is also identified as a sigil for the planet Saturn, attributed to the same 12th century alchemist, Artefius. So Led Zeppelin fans, parentheses of which I am one, I try to get all mysterious about how Jimmy Page absolutely refuses to reveal the mystery and meaning of ZoSo. Cue Twilight Zone. But I don't put too much stock in that. Jimmy Page's birthday is January 9th, which makes him a Capricorn, which according to astrology, proponents is an earth sign ruled by the planet Saturn. So in short, it looks like ZoSo is just Jimmy Page referring to his own zodiac sign. Makes sense. It makes perfect sense. I wish I could share this page with you guys. I really wish I could. Alright. So there's one. So it could be just his own symbol. It could be his own symbol. Which I think is funny. I think it's great. Here we go again. Alright. We'll go on to Jimmy's symbol. Wow. Alright, here's a lot more on Jimmy's symbol. So, this is for ZoSo. Okay, no one really knows for sure what Jimmy Page's symbol means. The most recent theory that seeks to explain it is that it symbolizes a near-death or tantric sex experience to unify the worlds of living and the dead, and thus to reveal the secrets of the universe. Okay. A post on the mailing list said that a symbol very similar to Jimmy's page was found in the book. The Collected Works, Volume 1 by Aleister Crowley. I can't remember the page number. It was either 143 or 345. I myself haven't gotten around to checking on this, but I plan to soon. So, there are a few points that are worth clarifying. It is not a word that can be pronounced ZoSo, so you can't pronounce it. It's not a word. So, the symbol was designed by Jimmy, and the only person he has revealed its meaning to was Plant long ago, and since he has forgotten. Nigel Eaton, a hurdy-gurdy player on the Page and Plant World Tour, was represented in Q as having asked about it and been greeted with a deathly silence. So it is unlikely to symbolize Cerberus, the guardian hound of the gates of hell. So, no, nothing with the gates of hell, the four dogs. It is not a stitzelized 666, so it has nothing to do with the devil. The closest thing to an explanation from the man himself came on his November 1994 appearance on Denton with Plant. At the end of their interview, a member of the studio audience yelled, "What's your symbol mean, Jimmy?" After some confusion as to what was being yelled, understanding dawned on Plant's face as he replied, "Frying tonight. Frying tonight." Page did not elaborate further. It most likely has absolutely nothing to do with Curious George the Monkey, known as ZoSo, a character in English children's books. It has nothing to do with the pyramids of Zoser in Egypt. So, what do you guys think about that? very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Let's see. So, I would honestly say that it is a pure human projection, the actual Zozo, on people that are willing or unknowingly. They don't know who it is, what it is, and they're willing to accept and believe everything. So, that's my opinion. So I am, seeing, Page and Crowley as both trying to find, the good in the bad. Alchemy, alchemical. So I don't know, probably doesn't mean anything. So that's my conclusion. So again, Zozo's fake. So I'm sorry guys to burst your bubbles. But he's completely fake. So what does that mean? I mean, a lot of people know it. So what does that mean? Don't fear Zozo. There's nothing to it. Nothing at all. It's all because of a band. And then one man that obviously loved Led Zeppelin. And then blew it out of proportion because they were drinking. And if you read the Zozo Phenomenon, you will understand. So I highly recommend that you read the Zozo Phenomenon. Because I am seeing now with Jimmy Page the synchronicities between characters in the Zozo Phenomenon and what had happened to Jimmy Page. Alcoholism, domestic violence, all relates to the book, The Zozo Phenomenon, and Jimmy Page's story. So, read the book, study Jimmy Page, and then you will completely understand. It's not rocket science. It's not hard. So, alright guys, that was Sunday with Satan. So, I hope you all have a great day. I just had to get on and get more out because I'm honestly sick of Zozo. And I think it should be wiped away. A clean slate. Hopefully. So, alright, but yeah, I will do more research. And yeah, so. Alright guys, I love you all very, very, very much. And thank you guys for watching again. And I love it that more people are disliking the videos. Pulling cords. Hitting the nerve. So. Alright guys, everybody be safe. And yes, I'll stay warm. So I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.